Welcome back. The Verified Athletics Playmaker's Edge is officially released. Our friend Issa Abdul Kudus is sharing quick hits and knowledge that helped him to be a 6-year NFL player. You can find it on our website at verifiedathletics.com, and it's also on YouTube. It's only a couple minutes long, so check it out if you haven't already. Our audience just keeps on growing, so thanks for sharing and keep doing it. This week's guest is Omar Porter. Omar is what I would call a recruiting guy in the Charlotte, Shelby area. And he's also the host of the Recruiting Knowledge with Omar Porter podcast. Omar is a good dude. He's got a great perspective to share, and I had fun getting to know him. Enjoy. All right, we got Omar here. How's it going, Omar?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you on. I know we've been connecting back and forth a little bit, and I'm really interested in hearing your story and your perspective and getting that out to our listeners, our all the student athletes, and that can learn from your perspective. So why don't you tell me, I still really need to learn a lot about you. How I know you're coaching high school football. I know you're working with athletes, but how would you describe what it is that you're doing?
I coach at Crest High School in Shelby, North Carolina. Any players come out of there, Brandon Spikes played for the Patriots and Florida Gators, Jonathan Bullard for the Gators, Justin Foster plays for Clemson, just won a national championship. So coach at Crest High School. For years, I've kind of worked in our community doing different things. I've been a community outreach coordinator, behavior tech in the county. So over the years, I've just built relationships with kids from elementary school all the way to high school. But with the sports aspect of it, of course, I coach ball, but I've also always kind of helped assist parents and kids with the process. It started probably in 2005 when I was working at Shelby High School. I was single at the time, and a kid was like, "Hey, Mr. Porter, I need a ride to a school." And so that's kind of how everything started. Like I took some kids to visit a school one weekend, and then that just kept happening over and over. Then when I was going back to some of the schools, the coach was like, "Well, wait a minute, didn't I just see you bring another kid another time?" So that's how it kind of build up from there. It's just going out. So learning the process through all of the coaches and the players. So that's kind of just what I do, man. Coach ball and try to help the guys.
So you're talking to high school athletes, not just at the school that you coach at, right? All over the community?
Oh yeah. Yeah. All throughout my county. Even I've had people reach out to me outside of North Carolina now. I do a podcast as well, but just in that, even just becoming through Twitter, I guess people will see me put people's stuff out and they will reach out to me. And so it's kind of been building from there. So even outside of my high school, I do help students.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you end up finding the athletes that you're working with?
Well, the thing is, like, I don't really I don't set out to find anybody. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the difference. Like I definitely start with kids at my school first, and then parents will say, "Hey, Omar, we know you kind of do this. Can you help us?" And I reach out to their coaches as well because I never want to step on any other coach's toes. Like, "Oh, I can do this and he can't." No, it's none of that. I just try to that I may have some connections that they don't have. So when I do have other parents reach out to me and stuff like that, a lot of times it is through Twitter. Hey, I've heard about what you do and can you help us? And so that's kind of how it goes. So through Twitter and just social media a lot of the time, and then word of mouth.
Yeah, and then you're based out of the Charlotte area, right? North Carolina?
Yeah, yeah, Shelby, North Carolina, but right there, that Charlotte area, we're 45 minutes west of Charlotte.
Great, yeah. I've never recruited that area, so we don't have a relationship through the recruiting pipeline. Only really through recent times. But
Yeah,
I you kind of remind me so much of so many guys that I knew in all the towns that I recruited. There's the Chicago version of you. There's the Detroit version of
yeah,
you, and I try to figure out how to explain it. I feel like when I talk about it, I usually would use the word a recruiting guy, and I don't know
uh-huh.
there's probably a better word for it, but it's just I find it's the person that knows who all the athletes are in an area and knows a lot about them, and can be a great source of gathering names in the first part for a college coach, but then also is a good triangulation. You talk to an athlete, you get one perspective on what they're like, you talk to their family, you talk to their coach, but then there's this other guy that you trust, that you've had this relationship with for a while, that has his own
Yeah,
opinion. And I think all of that stuff is really helpful in the eyes of a college coach. So I'm sure the athletes that that you know, and you're connecting with college programs, I'm sure you're helping them a lot.
Mhm.
How
Yeah,
do
man. And it's like it's like what you said. A lot of times, schools will call me and be like, "Hey, man, Omar, what do you who do y'all have in the area?" And I'll if I don't know somebody at the school is about to come out, I'll reach out to that coach like, "Hey, such and such school is ask me who's in the area," and then they'll give me their names and stuff like that, and I'll put it out to the coaches and dig a little deep if I need to too.
and is anything that you're doing like I imagine college coaches aren't paying you anything. Are like
No,
these athletes paying you anything?
nope, not at all.
So this is really just like would you describe it as a hobby, or how would you describe it?
I always see it as like it's like ministry. You know what I'm saying, to me. Yeah, because and it's always I'm telling it's always a thin line with me because people always were like, well, man, you can get paid for this, you can do this, and I do know because I talk to college coaches as well. It's a thin line when you start trying to pay for recruiting stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because some of the stuff I'm doing, I mean, a good coach just does it. Not saying or you may have somebody on staff that can do that stuff. And for our school at Crest, I do that. You know what I'm saying? And our other coaches do as well. But yeah, but I don't get paid anything. Like I said, I see it as ministry, man. When I see, these guys working hard in the classroom, on the field, and then that they put this stuff out there, they get an offer, or they end up going to school. Like that's just like one of the best feelings in the world. From the kid that's a D1 athlete to a kid that just has the grades, but he's going to a Division 3 school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like a college football Big Brother program or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to use that right there.
No, it's totally true. Yeah, in most cases, like when I see these situations, that is typically how it is. It's like it is just like a community give back, and it's
Hmm.
rewarding. It's rewarding, and it's fun. I imagine being in your position. Find myself motivated probably by many of the same things that you're getting motivated by. The only difference is the scale. You're in like a local area, and you're really reaching like a direct personal connection, where what I'm doing is trying to give that guidance, give that help, that assistance of connecting high school athletes with college coaches on a more
Right.
national scale. But it's the same motivation, I think.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
And then, are you also training athletes? Is that a part of what was some of the stuff that you're doing?
Yes, we have a place here in actually in Shelby. It's called the Love Center, where we do off season training, and we do all season training. And one of our trainers, Michael Allison, actually the founder, he does individual training too. So what we do is like starting in January all the way up until June, we do 3 days a week training with athletes. We've had like Landon Zanders that just went to Clemson. He trained there. Justin Foster trained with the guy. Dax Hollifield is at Virginia Tech. He trains with Mike as well. So, we just getting back to the fundamentals of it. You know what I mean? And like a lot of the high schools in the area, and all the schools really, they kind of support it because we're just trying to get those guys ready for when spring ball comes in. We shut it down so we won't conflict with anything that they're doing. But it's not even just training. We try to mentor them. We take them on college visits. And I mean, and all the guys that train in there are former college athletes. So it's stuff that us as athletes in high school and stuff, is a lot of stuff we didn't learn until we got to college, you know. But now we're bringing that stuff back to these guys where they're learning in, elementary school, middle school, high school. So
Yeah, and are you only working? I mean, like, I want to make sure that I think I understand what you guys are doing, so I want to make sure it's clear to a lot of people. But you're not just training guys that are going to play at Clemson
oh
and
no,
like
no,
that's
no,
tell me
no.
like what does like a typical session look like? Like who's going to those things?
I mean, we got two sessions. We have a session from 6 to 7 where you have your elementary school, middle school kids. They come and train. Then the 7 to 8:30 session is the kids that are all your rising ninth graders and up. So they'll come in. We stretch them out and do different speed and agility stuff. Then we break up into our individual groups, like you D line linebackers, stuff like that. So and you have, I mean, all kinds of groups, all kinds of kids working together. And one thing we always tell them, like, everybody's not going to be a Division 1 athlete. No, not at all. And everybody's not going to be a professional sport, ball player. But you're going to be a professional something. You're going to be a professional. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a lawyer. you may work at this company or this plant, but you can run it if you want to. So just that structure and that discipline that you're learning from football and through this way of or that we're doing it is going to help you. So yeah, it's not just you can see some of the guys, but it's not just the top guys. It's just and they're all working together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. And like, whether they play college football or professional football, they're all playing high school football, and this is
Right.
helping them get better for their next season, which will make it more fun, and they'll be able to help their team. So there's like really no loss there.
Exactly. None at all. So like I said, it's a great thing. A lot of people in the community are behind it. We're in Shelby, but we have people coming from Charlotte, Gaffney, South Carolina, Hickory, Morganton. So like a lot of your surrounding areas. I mean, they make a little drive, 45-minute drive, to an hour sometime. They bring their kids in and they support it, and we do good with the kids. Like I said, it's not just sports, but that's the way we're using to get to them. I mean, I had a teacher from a elementary school hit me up and say, "Hey," and they're not even in our county. "Hey, I know this kid comes train with you guys. He had a bad week last week, so can you guys talk to him?" So then this kid's training with us. So guess what? Hey man, we need to talk. And it means something different coming that way as well.
Yeah, I think sports are always like a great way to break through, especially to young boys. They're so energized and so into the sports that they play that it could be a good way to reach them at a level to help them learn skills that will help them far beyond the football field. I always felt that as a coach.
Right, no doubt, no doubt. I agree.
Well, yeah, that's great. And so about all these guys in the area, and you described it like you're driving them to colleges to help them to visit. You're probably helping them to work their way through the recruiting process. What is that like? What does the typical span of that relationship look like?
Um, the one thing a lot of kids that I do come in contact with and their parents, like the relationship really never stops. Like even when they get to school, like even at the facilities where we train at, a lot of the kids that and not just me, but the collective people that we have help, they always come back and talk to the next group of guys. And from big, like I said, from Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, like whatever it may be. Like we just had a guy played a Division 3 ball at Greensboro College, about to graduate. One of my guys, he came in and talked to the guys and gave them like that real life perspective from the D3 standpoint. So that relationship, it continues to go on and on. And the thing is just like grooming those parents up. Like a lot of times I may go on the first trip and stuff like that, just kind of try to help them, because a lot of them, they have no clue whatsoever what's going on. And so I'll go with them just to kind of, help them, show them what to look for, just, what they see, and then after that, I just may set a video visit up for them, and they kind of know what they're doing, but they just don't want to go down there like not knowing anything.
Yeah, what do the college coaches think when you're on the visit with everyone? What's their reaction to that?
I mean, it's good, because the one thing that helps me though is I'm a coach, not just like some random person. Like I mean, in our area, they know Crest High School, so I coach at Crest, and it's like, and they know like, hey man, Omar's gonna tell us about any kid in the area, so it's always good, and I build relationship with those guys. And sometimes the relationships go beyond just talking to the kids, like, hey Omar, how you doing? Just chatting outside. I may go up there and hang out, different stuff like that. So it's always good. But like I said, it helps me because I'm a coach for a high school, and not just they don't see me as a handler or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's like a big misconception of like these recruiting guys is that
Yeah,
they're these handlers. I think that might be like a basketball thing, and I think that's where that
right.
comes from. Like honestly, like
Yeah,
I really don't see that in football. I never have. I'm sure it exists somewhere at some level, but for the most part, it's guys that like are in your position where they're just like genuine good people that wanna help the athletes, and the college
right.
coaches, in my experience, like mostly appreciate it because you help us find the guys, you help
Yes.
you help the athletes like make great decisions on where to go to school, and you direct them. I'm sure like you help point them to the schools that are gonna really be the best fit for them in a way that like makes it better for everyone.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, it makes the work so much easier for them. Like I had a coach say, "Hey, Omar, man, I got this area now." That he was at one school and left and went to another school. Well, now it's like, "Hey, Omar, I still got this area, man. I need your help." It's like, hey, I mean, that's our relationship. Like it ain't, I ain't looking for nothing. They ain't looking for nothing. But sometimes people can kind of just look at that stuff a little different. So
Yeah, and when the athletes are like finally making their decision, let's say they're choosing between a couple schools at the end, I imagine you're pretty close to them and you know more about this situation than they do or their parents do. Like, how close are you in like the actual decision making process of where they're going to go to school?
Me personally, I try to, if they ask me my opinion, I'll kind of tell sometime, but I never, and I mean never, tell a kid where to go because I never want them to be like, well, Coach Porter told me to do this, and then they're miserable.
Yeah.
You would never, you would never get that on me. So, and I'll give them my advice. I mean, they'll ask my advice, and I'll, may tell them kind of what I see, but at the end of the day, it's their decision. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't try to influence it one way or another.
And what is your advice? What do you usually tell guys?
I mean, just go. Sometimes you gotta tell people don't get caught up in just the name of places. You know, go where you're. Well, some people say wanted, but where you're needed also. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is too, like, make sure you enjoy the school, the teammates. Coaches may come and go. But make sure you really like the team, the players, the school, the location. All of that stuff. Is it too far for you? Do you I want to just go to this school and then you jump out there and then it's so far from home and you end up quitting and coming back, just all those different things, man.
Yeah, I feel like one of the major reasons why athletes choose the schools they choose is because of the recruiting coach that's recruiting them. That is like almost
Yeah,
always it. Because like when you look at it though, I can understand it when you see it from their perspective. They're about to go to a brand new place
right,
and they don't know anyone there except for one person. At all these schools, they know one person, and it's the coach that's
right,
recruiting them. And
right,
so, like, yeah, go to the place. If you're gonna only know one person, go to the place where you like the one person. But
right.
the truth is like it's a terrible way to make a decision because that person is almost certainly not going to be there in 4 years, let alone one or
Exactly.
two.
Yep. That's
So,
right.
yeah, so that always ends up being a tough part of it. And like that was always my perspective as the recruiting coach was both like one, like trying to take advantage of that mentality and making sure that I wanted every athlete that I was recruiting to like me more than they liked any of the other guys that were recruiting them.
Wow.
Especially as being a young coach, I think it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
As you get older, I think that probably gets a little bit harder. You have to figure out, a new strategy. Um,
Mm.
but I always wanted to do that. And then I felt like then I could see if I really thought the school was going to be a good fit for them. Fortunately,
Yeah.
for most of my career, I coached at places where I thought that athletes were going to get a ton out of the experience because I was working for great head coaches and we were at good academic schools in like cool places and we had great teams. So like I really did believe. I imagine that becomes harder to bring guys to a school that you really don't believe in,
Right.
which I'm sure college coaches
Right.
have to do all the time.
Right. I mean, and even in saying that, like, I remember one coach where there was recruiting one of our guys, and he was selling at school, and then the next week he was somewhere else, and he had to come back and sell that school. So the kid was like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that is the
It's the
reality of it.
business.
What do you think of when these college coaches are like hopping from school to school all the time? How does like from your perspective, what is that? How do you view that?
I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. And sometimes you can be like, oh, okay, wait a minute, you were just there. So I like the thing is, I just know at the end of the day, it's a business. I never know why these people leave. I mean, they may have been let go, or thing is, man, they got to provide for their families just like everybody else, man. Um, but at the same time, you do want to see people be consistent and kind of be where they are when they tell the kids coming. But like I said, it's and that's the adults, the kids are like, man, I thought he's gonna be there, but at the same time, it's a business, man.
Yeah, it's like a fire that burns from both ends because
Right,
coaches that don't do well, they can't stay if they want to, and coaches
right,
that do well, get such good opportunities to, make more money and live in better places and make good decisions for their family where, there's really very few people that stay right in the middle of being too good or not good enough for too long. So
right,
it's just like,
right.
I wonder though, like, I think for most coaches, like, I think they would like to stay at places longer.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they would too. I think they would too. Like you said, just but when you're a good coach and the bigger boys come to Portland or a better opportunity come, then it's about advancement.
well, yeah, and the finances are so different for coaches at different
Right,
levels. It's at at some of the lower levels, like maintaining like a family is really not that realistic. It's only for young guys, in a lot of ways. Now, people get married, they make it work, especially if you become a head coach or something like that. But, it's just not sustainable. And then, so like the races,
It's crazy that you say that because I mean I'm just thinking about that right now. I've never thought about it like that, but when I'm thinking about like some of your lower level guys, a lot of time are single guys that can kind of wow. I've never thought about it. That's a good perspective. I've never thought about it like that.
yeah, honestly, I think a lot of times it's a race. It's a race. You start off as a young guy coaching at, like, say, a D3 school. Not all
Yeah,
guys start off this way, but let's say you start off that way. And it's a race. Are you going to find a wife and kids first? Or are you going to find like a good paying job first? Because you can't have both. I mean,
right,
you can't have the job that you have and the wife and kids. So like you either
right.
stay in coaching and because you make it to a level where you can make enough money to support a family first, or you get out of coaching because you can't, right? So, but if you make it like if you become a head coach at a Division 3 school, I think it's definitely possible. Sometimes like
Yeah,
it's like the second coach on the staff sometimes can do that as well. But I remember like even coaching at Fordham University, which is a Division 1 school.
yeah,
The salaries were okay, but you're living in New York where those salaries don't go very far, and like if you want to live in a place where you can send your kids to a good public school, you had to be like living really far away to both be able to afford it and have the schools be good. And
yeah,
so it just like became, and you're working 100 hours a week because you're a college coach, so it just became really difficult to stay there. And I think a lot of coaches with families never stuck around. They never try. They were never able to make it work.
yeah.
So,
Wow.
but the other thing I wanted to ask you too is, you're so close to these athletes in the recruiting process and the families, and you said that they don't know anything about recruiting, but I feel like a lot of times they don't know anything about recruiting, but they think that they do.
Oh,
Um,
oh my gosh, yes. Oh, what? Yeah.
so
I mean, they,
I was wondering if, like, first of all, like, what do you think are the common pitfalls, and if you have any other good stories that might, highlight that, I'd be interested to hear them.
oh man, everybody is D1, man. I know you know it. You know, as a coach, it just been everybody is D1, and I mean, I some stories, man. I've had parents saying players think their son was so D1 that they missed out on opportunities, and that's the stuff that I really hate. Where kid might have had some D2 offers, even some FCS stuff, but they just thought they was FBS and oh they should be going to Carolina, Clemson, Oregon, places like that, and that and now this is one of the things too. What I do is if a kid reaches out to me, I'll send film to like 4 different coaches that I know. And I mean all levels. It'll be, FBS, FCS, Division 2, Division 3. I'll just send it out to those coaches, to those 4 or 5 different coaches. And they're all and pretty much all of the time they give me the same opinion of the kid. Like, hey Omar, I see this guy playing at this level. And so what happens is, let's say I send it and the kid, everybody's saying he's a D2 guy, Omar. Could develop to maybe, an FCS guy could. But right now I see him as a Division 2 guy. And that's like I told that to a parent and man, it was like they got mad at me, and they want the honest opinion because they start off like they start off really humble and oh my gosh, he just wants an opportunity and but then when you kind of tell them like, hey, this is what they're saying right now, he can develop to be a better player, but this is what got well, he just doesn't feel that way. So okay, I'm like, all right, then what you need my opinion for then? If you're gonna go with your own, so that's something that I see a lot, man. When like I said, I always use coaches to evaluate the film. And I mean I got an eye for it too, but I send it to those guys so they can tell me as well. And sometimes if it's like I say, FBS or bust sometimes, and parents don't want to hear it, man, and they may get upset and then, may just not even pursue going to camps and stuff that they should, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the push it, they need to go to these D2 camps or FCS camps in order to actually get the offers at the level
Right.
that's most appropriate for them, but instead they waste their time and money, right?
Oh man, I see that so much, man. I mean, and I really I put it on my Twitter, all my social media, like, hey man, choose your camps wisely. Even if it's a kid that's borderline FBS, FCS, I sometimes I still, if they can, and if they don't have an offer, I still may tell them, hey man, go to a local D2. You know what I'm saying? Just to, because you never know what's gonna happen. And just as well as I do, like recruiting, you never know what's gonna happen. Like that stuff changes from day to day and school to school.
Yeah, I mean, you go from being 10th on the board one weekend to up for a scholarship the next weekend. So that happens all the
Right,
time, especially at the
right,
end, Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, that's totally true. And, a lot of times the advice I give guys, I'm curious how this matches up with what you do around the camps, is I say, go to like the one big FBS school around you.
Yep,
Go to one.
yep,
Go to one,
yep.
because
That's
it
it.
it gives you the opportunity, because in the back of everyone's mind, even if you kind of know you're a Division three player, in the back of your mind, you're still thinking maybe, and
Yep,
so it gives you that chance, and you
yep,
get in front of a bunch of other coaches, and you never know what might happen out of that. But like really,
exactly.
don't spend your money going to 10 of those, because like you're just wasting your time now. Go
Yep.
to
Same way. What you just said is exactly what I do too. I'm like, hey man, pick you out one of the big ones around here. In our area, you got just like right around the way. You got Clemson, you got Wake, you got Carolina, you got State. You got Duke. You got a lot of those guys want to go to those schools, and I say, hey, pick you one of those. But then go to A&T or go to Lenore Ryan, and go to different Gardner-Webb. Different places like that too. So
do they listen?
the ones that I'm like that I've been with for a while, most of them do. But then you have some that's just I'll say most of the time they do, but you have a few that's like, oh, whatever, and they spend all their money. And then what happens is after it's said and done, then it's like, hey coach, can you get in contact with Wingate for me, or can you get in contact with Gardner-Webb? And it's like, well, wait a minute, man, they want you to come to camp and you wouldn't show them no love.
Yeah. Yeah, that is such a challenge. Especially as like an FCS or a Division two coach, you're trying to tell the athlete, like, don't stop it, like, don't do that, like, come to us where you like, this is a good idea for you. But from that perspective, it's even harder to get through the athlete, because they just think like, you're in it for yourself and not for the
Yeah,
athlete. But like, it really is the good advice. I mean, until you get the offers, like, you don't have anything. All
right.
you
That's what people don't understand. It's like that's what I don't get, man. When people telling me or you as a coach or just whoever that you don't have any offers right now, but you act like you just know exactly where you're going. I'm like, man, you don't even got anything yet. Like you should be fighting and grinding and crawling and digging to get what you can right now.
Plus, like, the Clemson's gonna be more interested in you and like take you more seriously when you have the Duke offer, and the Duke's gonna take you
Right.
more seriously when you have the Gardner-Webb offer, and
Exactly.
Gardner-Webb's gonna take you more seriously when you have the Division two offer. Like,
Exactly.
it's like you're padding your resume in some ways,
Right.
and maybe, and it both serves to pad your resume and also gets you the offers that you need to be able to go to college and play football and get the things that you want.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
yeah,
And the thing with like it's because a lot of times, like I said, and because I know you've done it. A lot of times the guy I'll send film and they like the film, like, hey man, Omar, what does he have going on recruiting wise? That's the next question. What does he have going on recruiting wise? It was a kid that we had out here that a FCS school wanted to offer, but he hadn't had any FCS offers. Excuse me, FBS offers. And he was like, Omar, man, I can't justify offering him right now. And that
yeah,
was one of the things, like I can't justify it.
yeah. It's an unfortunate part, especially when you're an athlete sitting there with no offers. That it
Yeah.
offers get you more offers. For a couple reasons. One is, um, it it's less risky as a coach. For a couple reasons. The main one is really when you're someone's only offer, they could, like, they could take it now, and you definitely have to honor it. Like you have to take it. Like,
Right.
you can't slow play. You can't like wait and see how it goes. Like, but if someone's got 10 offers, you can offer them and see how things play out over the next, maybe like they're like fifth or sixth on your list. You could see kind of what happens, because you got some time. But the other
Yeah.
guy that's fifth or sixth on your list and they don't have any offers, you offer them, and like now you get that guy, and now the guys that were ahead of them, you kind of have to tell them that you're full, and so
Right.
it's risky.
Yep.
And then it's challenging sometimes to get a player offered, because usually when you're recruiting the athlete, even if you think that they're good enough, it's not usually your call. It's usually the position coach or the coordinator or
Right.
the head coach's call. And
Right.
when you sit down and you say, watch this film, when you can also say, watch this film, he has offers from blank, blank, blank,
Right.
then like it's easier to get the push for the offer in that case.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's true. And I went up to and I learned a lot. I went up to Duke about 2 or 3 years ago. We had a kid up there, and Coach Cutcliffe brought me and him, and once when Scotty Montgomery was still the offensive coordinator, and I went in, up there for the weekend and just learned a lot about like a lot of the inside stuff that of course you already knew, but a lot of the inside stuff, man, of just having that recruiting board and you know. It might be 10 offers at that spot or whatever, or I'm saying a few offers at that spot, but it's certain guys that you're looking at and going down that list. So that's when I really started learning about it being like about slots and spots. Hey man, these spots gonna go. If these two guys right here go, then you might not have a spot. So you need to know what you're doing and looking at what you're looking at and make those decisions. So
yeah, and a lot of times guys that are getting recruited but don't have offers, they don't realize that they're on that board, but they're ways down there and they're like a backup option, big
right,
time. Because every year, no matter what school you're coaching at, one of your boards is going to start to fall apart. Like one of your positions, you had to sign
yeah,
2 defensive ends, and before you like a couple weeks go by, and all of a sudden your top 10 guys are all gone, and now
yeah,
if you weren't recruiting 11 through 20, then you're really out of luck. And so
right, right,
these guys that are 11 through 20, they think they're getting recruited because they're really close to an offer, when it's really only in like the really rare scenario that they end up getting an offer. And I think that also prevents those athletes from thinking, oh, I also need to be looking at these schools that are really recruiting me and offering me this level below, because in their mind, they're like, oh, well, tomorrow the Clemson's going to offer me because they've been
right,
recruiting me.
right,
So,
right.
yeah. But, as far as like these athletes that have these attitudes of D1 or bust, is there a way to break through to them and help them, or is it a lost cause?
Uh, it's sometimes I feel like it is a lost cause. I sometimes, but then what happens is that's when you have. I mean, like what I've done is like bring other guys around. Like I mean, guys that were great athletes that these guys may have even looked up to, and they didn't even land at those spots. So those guys will come in and talk to them and just tell them the reality of it. Sometimes, like man, you never know, what these people want. We got a guy, not just put that, but Jalen Moore, Appalachian State. He great tailback. When he played for us, he was all-state as a kick returner, but amazing back. He went everywhere. I mean, we went to all the major schools, and none of them offered him. Ended up getting an offer from, I think it was late Gardner-Webb, Southern University, and App ended up offering him like late, and he went to App, and the rest is history there. But he was a guy that these guys have watched play, and he was an amazing player. And he didn't get those looks from the schools that they talking about that they're going to. So sometimes after you see those stories and then those guys come back and tell those guys that, it becomes a reality to some of them. What I don't like sometimes with them is when the kid gets his first offer, regardless what level it is, they're so humble and, oh my gosh, I can play college ball. I'm so excited, and their parents excited. And then you lose that hunger or that humbleness. Well, I don't want to go there because, well, wait a minute, you just didn't have any offers the other day, and now you might have two, maybe three now. I mean, it's like, and those schools is too small for you now. So that kind of gets you sometimes when you see people lose that humility. And of course, offers gonna come in, and if big ones come in, and and I don't know, a lot of coaches they'll be like, hey man, say if I'm at a D1 AA school, FCS school, and the FBS school offer, a lot of times they'll say, hey man, I understand. I understand if that's what you're gonna do. But sometimes those guys, I just see it, man, where they just lose it. Like, well, yeah, coach, I don't think I want to do that. And then I've seen it where they don't end up anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that it is so hard to reach those guys. But I think that's a good strategy, is to bring around the guys that they look up to, because that can definitely be a reality check. I think, I tell athletes sometimes to gauge the level of where they think they could get recruited at is, look back at your own high school career and say, this is when I started playing varsity. This is when I started being a starter on varsity. This is when I was one of the best players on the team. And then think about like guys that are a year or two older than you that had similar paths at your same school and see where they're at, and that could be like a pretty, if you started on your varsity team starting your sophomore year, but most of the guys that are starting in their sophomore year are playing D2 football or something like that, then, like, yeah, I know you're the best player on the team, but like, look at it. It seems like D2 might be, a good gauge on where you might be headed. But, through all of that, the athletes I think are focused way too much on level and not enough on the right fit.
Exactly, the right fit in education. Like they forget all about that part.
Totally. Well, I know you got to run, so I definitely appreciate your time, and I hope you can just keep on doing what you're doing. I think you and guys like you are service to these athletes and their families, and honestly to college coaches. So, from my perspective, I appreciate guys like you, and so just keep doing it.
Hey man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, and definitely got to get you on my podcast as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say before I let you go, why don't you tell my audience how they can find you on social media and your podcast?
On social media, Instagram, Twitter, is Omar Porter. My podcast is available on iTunes and Google Play. It's Recruit Knowledge with Omar Porter. So you guys, go to your places and subscribe to it. And I also have a YouTube channel, Recruit Knowledge with Omar Porter, where I pull in some of the interviews that I do from the podcast. I'll record the videos and put them up on YouTube. So that's where you can reach me, man.
Awesome. Keep doing it. Thanks a lot, Omar.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Guys like Omar, they're such a valuable resource for athletes and college coaches. The athletes and parents that he works with are lucky to know him. Go check out his podcast, Recruiting Knowledge with Omar Porter. If you're enjoying the podcast, our articles on the Recruiting Academy, like the last one on how to still play college football with bad grades, or the new Playmaker's Edge, please share them. The word is spreading, and your help in that is making it possible for me to keep doing all this. Thanks a lot. See you next time.